ladies, what I want to talk to you about today is why we cave on our diets. So I want to get to the bottom of why you've been caving, okay, or why you've fallen off in the past. Even though you have good intentions, even though you may be super motivated, or even though you plan for the best, right? Why do we fall off? Because we've all been there, right? And so in order to answer the question, why are we caving? Why do we keep falling off? Why do we have this? We have to answer the question of what is going on first, okay? And to get to the bottom of what is happening, you first need to look at life like this, okay? So your life and anybody's life, it's just a series of phases. It's just one phase after the other. It's just transitioning from one phase to the next phase of your life. Every phase you go into, you're learning something new, you're growing, and usually you're getting more responsibilities, right? That's just life, from one phase to the other, from kid to teenager, from teen to young adult, from adult to married to kids. That's kind of the phases we go through, right? Sound familiar? Pretty familiar. And so what ends up happening is that from phase to phase, from kid to teenager to university student to married woman, right? We go through these phases, whatever your order of phases is. Life demands different things of us, right? Our life changes, our responsibility changes. And when that happens, we have to completely shift routines and shift schedules. And because life is ever changing, your routines have been so far ever changing. And because of that, you have never had in your entire life, you've never had a consistent routine ever. Long term, right? Is this making sense? You've never had a routine that you've maintained from phase to phase. Usually we let them go after each phase. So I want you to think back to different areas of your life, right? So think back to your schedule when you were a young kid, when you were like 10 years old. What was your schedule? What time did you wake up? Who cooked your food? What was school like? What was your homework like? What was your activity level? How did you cope with stress, right? That was kind of your routine, your schedule in that phase. Then move to high school. What was your schedule and routine there? Take a second and think about it. And then after high school, what did you do? Did you go straight into a career? Did you go into university or college? Then what was that new routine you had to adapt for what life was demanding of you, right? So think about it and think about how each phase changed your routine a little bit, and usually the way it goes is life makes you, throws more responsibilities at you and less time to take care of yourself, right? So then phase to phase, you start to get lower and lower on the to-do list, on the priority list, right? Because everything else is so much more important than you. And so because of that, would you ever want, so think back to whatever phase, so think back to the best phase of your life right now. Maybe it's right now, maybe it was in the past. Best phase of your life. And then think about the routine and the schedule that you had at that time. Okay? Could you go back to that same routine and schedule with who you are right now, with where you are in life right now? Could you even do that? Probably not, right? Would you want to? Probably not, right? And so then the problem becomes when you start looking into the past for answers, right? Oh, I lost weight on Weight Watchers 5 years ago. Oh, I was 120 when I was 19 years old, and I want to get back to that, right? Like this worked, that worked, I tried this. And when we start looking to the past for answers, well, the past can only ever repeat itself because the past is what's led you here. And if here is unhappy, if here is not where you want to stop, then you have to stop looking in the past, because all of those routines, all of those schedules that change from phase to phase, they can't suit you. They don't suit your needs for you right now in your life, with your lifestyle, and who you are, because you've changed. Hopefully you've changed, right? And so you need to stop looking in the past for an answer. So that means you need to start looking to the future for an answer. And the answer, ladies, the answer you're looking for is in a routine. and not in anything else you've ever had before. It is in a brand new routine. And listen to this, okay? It is in a routine that you enjoy. It is in a routine that is convenient and fits your personal lifestyle. And most importantly, it is in a routine that can transition with you from phase to phase. Not that you have to leave behind and create a whole new one and scramble and develop bad habits along the way. Do you know what I mean? So the key to success, the key to not caving all the time is stop looking to the past for answers, realize it's in the future and it's a brand new routine. And that routine will only last if you can transition with it from phase to phase. So if what you are doing is torture, if you're dragging your feet, if you're hating every second of it, if it's taking up too much mental power and physical time, it's not, you're going to leave it behind in your next phase. And that is what you have done, right? That is what has happened in the past. You left it behind you because you could not transition and it doesn't serve you anymore in your new life. And so the reason, and we'll bring it back to now why we cave and why we fall off, the reason that you have been caving is not because there's been a lack of routine, ladies. It's not a lack of routine. It's the lack of the right routine. Because you've gotten so good and you've practiced falling off so many times that it's become its own routine, right? The way you fall off, when you fall off, it has developed into its a whole routine. When we fall off, it looks the same every time almost, doesn't it? Right? So think about the last time you fell off a diet, or you fell off a workout routine, or you fell off positive thinking. So think of the last time you kind of blew up, okay? In the comments, how long ago was that? How long ago was that, and what happened? How long? Was it last week? Was it 3 months ago? When did you fall off last? When did you disappoint yourself? When did you binge? When did you late night snack? When was that? When you caved and you know you shouldn't have. How long ago was that? We'll see in the comments. And I want you to think about, like, what was the environment? What was the trigger? How did you feel before it happened, when it happened, after it happened? So 2 weeks ago when it was with chips. A week ago, yes. So it's super common and it's going to happen again. But here's the thing. This is crazy. I want you to really think about this. So that was the last time that you fell off. So I want you to take one more step back and look at the last time you fell off. So the time before the most recent one. How long ago was that? And what caused it? Really think about this. This is going to be very eye-opening in a second. When was it? And how long did it last? How did you feel? It's crazy. And so, and maybe you've been really, really good lately and you haven't fallen off in a while, but you have in the past. And so when you look at how you fall off, you can start to see a pattern, okay? When you fall off, when you cave in, when you binge eat, it's usually the same time of the week. It's usually the same time of day. It's usually the same trigger, party, birthday, emotions, stress, period, right? It's usually the same trigger and the same emotions are felt. The same sequence of emotions are felt. Ah, fuck it, I screwed up, I'll go all the way in, might as well. I feel like shit, I feel guilty, why'd I even do this, right? There is a pattern here, ladies, and I need you to look and find your pattern. Can you see how every time you've fallen off in the past, it looks the same as pretty much every other time, right? It looks pretty much the same. What you did, how much you ate, what you ate, when you did it, what triggered it, it's all the same. Maybe the presentation of the trigger was different. So maybe it wasn't a birthday party, maybe it was a barbecue, right? But your pattern is your pattern and you repeat it. And because it's a pattern, you've repeated it so many times that, like I said, it's built up into its own routine. And you have gotten so good at practicing your fall off routine. Is this making sense? You have gotten so good at practicing your fall off routine that it almost feels like a part of you. And you might even feel like it's you. I have a sweet tooth. I have cravings I can't control. It becomes a part of you because you practice it so much, right? You identify as that person who I'm just a late night snacker, right? You identify that person because it's so ingrained in you. It's an automatic reaction. It's an automatic sequence of events. The second you decide to fall off, pay attention to the sequence of events and the sequence of emotions that happens. It's the same order every time. And because of that, it leads to the same reaction, which leads to the same action every time. You are literally completing the circle every time you fall off. You're saying, yeah, check, 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 boom, and I fell off. Every single time it's the same. It's crazy. There's a couple different variations based on, like I said, the trigger that caused it. But the way that you respond and react to it is the same every time. And so when you realize that, ladies, it becomes, you caving is not a lack of control. It's not that you have shitty willpower. It's not. It's just that you've gotten so good. You are an expert at falling off because you've practiced that routine for years. Is this making sense? You've practiced that fall off routine for years. So of course you're so good at it. Of course it happens often, or of course it will happen again in the future because you're so good at it. You're an expert at it, right? And so we need to realize that it's just a routine we've built. It's just an automatic reaction we've built to a sense of, to a sequential group of emotions that happen. This happens, and I feel like this, I feel like this, I feel like this. And then because of that, I react and I act out in X way every time. But here's the thing, you don't have to complete that loop every time. You can cut it off now that you know it's not who you are. Now that you know you're not a slave to the emotions. It's you choosing to react to the same sequence of events in the same way every time. Choose to react differently. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to happen every time. But if you've been practicing this fall off routine for years, you have to practice your fall on routine for years. And so I think that's where some people get really discouraged, right? Like who's fallen off before and just felt like, fuck it, I'm horrible. How could I do this? I want to give up completely, right? It's happened. And if it hasn't happened yet, it will happen eventually. You're not perfect. We're all human, right? And so we live in these extremes because we think this is an emotional response, and it is. But the emotions are just triggering our brain to fulfill an automatic action. And the only reason it's automatic is because we've made it automatic over years of practice. So then in that theory, you can just switch the action and build a new action. It just takes time, and we forget that we have to put in the reps. We think we're going to be really, really good right away. Olympic lifters who are lifting hundreds, thousands of pounds. Do you think they did that after a week of training? No. After a year of training? No. Years. And so let yourself off the hook for being imperfect. You're in the practice phase still, ladies. Right? We're rushing to this end goal, but we forget the important things along the way. You're not going to get there unless you put in the practice. You put in the reps. You won't get there. So there's no way you can fast track it if you just try to avoid the reps. If you think you're going to be perfect all the time until you get there, well, that's when you fail, and that's when the automatic response gets stronger, because then you build more intense emotional ties to it. You become disappointed with your actions instead of, oh, hey, I completed that cycle. I completed that circle again. Maybe I can cut it off here again. Maybe I can control my reaction to this. Maybe I can avoid the trigger altogether and change the way that my life looks. Like things like this are the difference between food controlling you and you controlling food. Can we see the difference there? So it's crazy because it really is just a pattern that you've been perpetuating. And when you can come to terms with that, it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And then you don't say things like, I don't know why I'm not losing weight. I'm so frustrated. I'm annoyed. I'm disappointed. Those are emotions. Those are negative emotions with no solution in them. Where's the solution? Where's the asking for help when you just say blanket statements like that, right? Because if the scale is not going down, if you are not seeing results, you are eating too much and not exercising enough. Period. Period. Those are the only two variables that affect the number on the scale. Period. There's like 0.00001% that's genetics. Everything else is just those two factors. And when you know that, it's just putting in the practice to get better at those two factors. That's it. It's not complicated. It's not brain surgery. It's this complicated equation that only the special people get to learn. It's doable. It becomes so doable. So then there's no need for guilt or for overwhelm because you know what happened. You know what you did wrong. You know what needs to change going forward. You know you don't have to be perfect going forward, but you do have to practice. And we think we can get away with skipping the practice, right, ladies? It would be easier to skip to the end. It would. But you're not learning anything. You're not developing new habits to replace that old habit of falling off. Because that's all it is. It's just a habit, right? It's just a habit. Going for the extra food, caving in is just easier than not, only because you've been practicing it that way for so long. And here's a quick tip, okay? Quick tip to make sure that you can curb your cravings and you can get back in control of them, okay? And this is a tip that I use every single day, okay? And it is hold the less decisions in a day, the better, okay? Your decision-making brain, the decisions you make in a day are precious. They are precious. They are gold, okay? You should only be making essential decisions in a day. If you have to make too many decisions in a day, what to eat, when to eat, what to wear, when am I going to work out? If you have to make those up every day, you suffer from decision fatigue. And every time you make a new decision, you are more likely, it's just a numbers game, you're more likely to make the wrong one. Does that make sense? It's just a numbers game. The more decisions you make in a day, the more opportunity, the more error you have, the more room for error you have. And so what you need to do going forward, ladies, is really take a look at your day. Ask yourself, how many decisions did I make today? Did I have to decide what time I'm going to wake up, what I'm going to wear, when I'm going to eat, what am I going to eat, when am I going to work out? Or did you have everything pre-planned and a schedule that you stick to, a routine that you stick to? That is the difference, okay? I have like 5 of the same t-shirt. I don't want to decide what I'm going to wear in a day. That's wasting my decision-making capacity. I'm tiring myself out. Every decision I make that's non-essential is one step closer to making the wrong one. And it only takes one wrong decision to domino affect everything else in your life. We've all been there, right? One bite is never just one bite. That was a wrong decision. And if you didn't make any more decisions, if you didn't make those non-essential decisions throughout the day, you wouldn't be so fatigued. You wouldn't be so likely to make an improper decision, really. Because it just comes down to fatigue. It comes down to you're not sharp. If your brain is having to decide trivial things every day, you're going to mess up. You're going to make a mistake on one of those things that you choose. It's like, this is funny. Like an example of that would be when I'm writing emails and I forget to put the attachments into the email. Have you ever done that? You say, see attached below. You write the email and then you send it, but you forgot to put the attachment in the email. Why? Because you have a million things on your mind, a million decisions to make of when do I have to do this? Do I have to do this? I can't forget about this. I have to fit this in, right? And we forget the basics. Is attaching a picture to an email difficult? No. Why did I forget it? It's small, it's trivial. I shouldn't have forgot it. It's because I made too many decisions that day. I didn't make clear what my priority was for the day. And because of that, I got overwhelmed with trying to manage and balance everything else that I let something simple slip, right? Saying no to that extra helping of pasta should not be hard. It should not be hard. It might be challenging depending on the emotional state you're in, but it shouldn't be hard. It should be easy as no thank you, and then you just walk away. But if you had a bad day, if you didn't prioritize, if you weren't prepared, if you didn't meal prep, if you didn't schedule in what time this meal was going to be, then there's too much up to chance. So you need to schedule. Every day should look the same as much as possible. That way, there's no surprises. There's no decisions to be made, right? What are you going to wear? When are you going to eat your meals throughout the day? What times? What times are you going to work out, right? You ladies on this call, you show up every Wednesday. You show up every Wednesday because you've put it in your calendar. You don't have to decide, oh, am I going to do it today? Am I going to do it not today? It's as part of your schedule. This is what you do on Wednesdays. This is not a decision you make. It's just something you do, right? It's a habit now. It's a habit. Our little date nights are a habit, right? And because of that, you don't miss them as often. Same applies to food, applies to workout, applies to your career, your relationship. Whatever's a priority in your life is what you need to be making pre-planned decisions on. And it needs to be the same or similar as much as possible day to day so you don't waste brain power. When you waste brain power, you're less sharp and you're more likely to give into temptation, and you're not going to have willpower when you need it the most, which is usually by the end of the day, right? That's when you need it the most. But if you spent all day making stupid little decisions that didn't push you forward at all, that didn't push you towards your goal at all, well, then you got nothing left to power you through the couple hours at the end of the night when you need it the most. Is that making sense? And so it's really about realizing, again, you can't look into the past for the answer, okay? History will repeat itself if that happens. You have to look to the future for the answer. The future is a new routine you've never had before because all of your life, all the phases you've been through, you've never been able to bring a routine with you. So now the goal here with Fit Queen is to build that routine that you can transition into any phase of life with. And when you do that, there's less decisions to be made in a day because the routine is consistent. It's the one constant you can rely on forever. It is the one thing that you have control over because we have no control over anything in life. Nothing, especially now with all this craziness going on. But your routine is the one thing that you can control. The one thing that you can control, and make sure that it's consistent so you don't have to make those trivial brain power draining decisions so you have nothing left for the important ones. Is that making sense, ladies? The less decisions in a day, the better. There should only be about 3 to 4 big decisions made every day. Other than that, your day should look the same. Do you know what I mean, guys? Is it making sense? Your day in, day out should look the same. There should only be about 3 to 4 big decisions that differ every day. You shouldn't have to know, when am I going to eat or what am I going to eat? That should be pre-planned. You shouldn't know, when am I going to figure my workout in? It should already be scheduled in. And that way you don't get to the day and either not make time for it or forget about it, right? How many times have you worked through lunch? How many times have you worked through your lunch break because you just forgot, right? But if you schedule shit in, you don't forget. And you don't have to guess. And you don't have to organize on the fly. How stressful is it to try and to feel like you're trying to catch up, but you're always one step behind? You ever feel like that? You're trying to catch up, but you're always one step behind. That is the worst feeling because you feel like it doesn't matter what you do, you're always behind and you're never going to get to that goal, whatever that is. In cleaning the house, losing weight, progressing in your career. You feel like you're always one step behind. And that makes you not want to keep trying. When you don't see any progress, when you don't feel proud of yourself, you don't really want to keep doing what you're doing, right? So tip for you ladies, going forward, analyze your day. See how many decisions, pointless decisions you're making, and how can you make them automatic and fit them into your day so they're non-negotiable? So you don't waste your decision power and you can keep it for when it matters most. Does that make sense, ladies? It's a cool little concept, very simple concept you can start implementing today, tonight. Pay attention to how you feel tonight. Are you tired? Are you fatigued? Are you mentally drained? Are you craving? Well, you wasted too much mental power during the day. Now you know, and you can change it tomorrow. Be 1% better tomorrow. Be 1% smarter tomorrow. Be 1% more protecting of that brain power. Protect your energy. Protect your mental power. Protect your decisions.